The sound you just heard? That's impossible. Becoming possible. In the world of martial arts, there are legends. And then there's Bruce Lee, a man who didn't just master fighting. He redefined what the human body could actually do. 50 years after his death, scientists, doctors, and martial artists are still trying to figure out how he did the things he did. Because here's the uncomfortable truth that nobody wants to admit. Some of Bruce Lee's accomplishments simply shouldn't be possible for a normal human being. The physics don't add up. The biology doesn't make sense. And yet, he did it. Over and over again, witnessed by hundreds of people, recorded by cameras, verified by experts. This isn't mythology. This isn't Hollywood special effects. This is documented reality that challenges everything we thought we knew about human limitation. So fasten your seatbelt and prepare yourself, because what you're about to discover will make you question whether Bruce Lee was even from this planet. Let's examine the evidence. The superhuman evidence. Evidence. Number 1. The 45-kilogram sandbag. Let's start with something that sounds impossible but is actually verified by the Guinness Book of World Records. Bruce Lee kicked a sandbag, a 45-kilogram sandbag, so hard that it broke. Not tore, not ripped. Broke. Split completely apart from the sheer force of impact. The kick was called the super side kick, a technique Bruce had perfected through years of brutal training. But here's what makes this truly insane. A 45-kilogram sandbag is designed to absorb impact. That's literally its entire purpose. Professional heavyweight boxers punch these bags thousands of times, and the bags survive. Bruce Lee kicked it once, and it shattered. Physicists who studied this feat calculated that the force required to break a sandbag of that weight would be equivalent to a small car hitting a wall at 30 miles per hour. Except the car has an engine. Bruce Lee had muscles, bones, and an impossible amount of concentrated power. Now pause for a moment and imagine that kick connecting with a human body. Imagine what would happen to ribs, to organs, to bone structure. That's why people who knew Bruce, who trained with him, who saw what he could do, they all said the same thing. You don't want to fight this man. You really, really don't. But it gets even more interesting when you consider the context. Bruce wasn't some massive heavyweight fighter. He weighed 130 pounds, soaking wet. That's smaller than most professional boxers' arms. And yet he was generating force that heavyweight champions would struggle to match. This wasn't just about technique. This wasn't just about perfect form or optimal leverage. This was about power-to-weight ratio that simply doesn't exist in normal human beings. When sports scientists examined Bruce's muscle density through the limited medical technology available at the time, they found something unusual. His muscle fibers were significantly denser than average. His fast-twitch muscle percentage was off the charts. His neuromuscular efficiency, the speed at which his brain could tell his muscles to contract, was measurably faster than trained athletes. In other words, Bruce Lee's body was built differently at a fundamental level. Evidence number 2. Defeating masters in seconds. Bruce Lee didn't just fight. He demolished. There's a difference. Fighting implies back and forth, a struggle, some level of competition. Bruce Lee's real fights, the ones that happened off-camera, away from Hollywood, weren't fights. They were demonstrations of superiority so absolute that they ended almost before they began. One of the most famous examples, the challenge match with Vic Moore, an American karate champion. The setup was simple. Bruce would throw punches. Vic would try to block them. Sounds fair, right? Except it wasn't. Not even close. The footage, yes, there's actual footage of this, shows Bruce throwing punches at a speed that seems to break the laws of physics. Vic Moore, a trained champion, couldn't even react. His hands were still moving to block position when Bruce's fists had already made contact and returned to guard. It looked like something out of a video game where one player has cheat codes enabled. Vic Moore later claimed he blocked some punches. He also claimed he landed hits on Bruce. The footage suggests otherwise. But here's the crazy part. Vic Moore went on to become one of the greatest karate masters in history. He won championships. He trained champions. He was nobody's fool. And Bruce Lee made him look like he was moving in slow motion. That's not skill. That's not just training. That's something else entirely. What makes this even more remarkable is understanding who Vic Moore was. This wasn't some amateur off the street. This was a legitimate champion with years of competition experience. He'd fought hundreds of opponents. He knew how to read movements, anticipate attacks, defend effectively. And Bruce made all of that expertise completely irrelevant. The speed differential was so extreme that experience didn't matter. Training didn't matter. Nothing mattered except the fact that Bruce Lee was operating on a different level of human performance. Evidence number 3. The 135-kilogram punching bag. This one still sparks debates today. The claim, Bruce Lee kicked a punching bag weighing 135 kilograms, that's nearly 300 pounds, so hard that it flew 5 meters into the air and slapped against the ceiling. 5 meters. That's as high as a 2-story building. Physicists have been arguing about this for decades. They run the calculations over and over. Body mass, velocity, force transfer, conservation of momentum. And every time, the math says the same thing. Impossible. A man weighing 130 pounds should not be able to generate enough force to launch 300 pounds 5 meters vertically. It violates basic physics. Except it happened. James Coburn, the famous American actor who trained under Bruce Lee, witnessed it. He described it in interviews. I saw him kick that bag, and it literally slapped the ceiling. I couldn't believe it. Nobody could believe it. Other students confirmed it. Multiple witnesses, all telling the same story. So we're left with 2 options. Either dozens of credible people are all lying about the same thing, or Bruce Lee somehow figured out how to generate force in ways that don't fit our understanding of biomechanics. Given everything else on this list, which seems more likely? Let's break down the physics for a moment. To lift 135 kilograms 5 meters vertically requires approximately 6,600 joules of energy. That's the kinetic energy Bruce's kick had to transfer to the bag. For context, a professional heavyweight boxer's punch generates about 1,000 to 1,400 joules. Bruce was generating almost 5 times that amount with a single kick, and doing it consistently. This wasn't a one-time fluke. Multiple witnesses report seeing him do this repeatedly, day after day. The bag would hit the ceiling, swing back down, and Bruce would kick it again. Same result, every time. Evidence number 4. Nunchaku mastery. Here's something most people don't know. Bruce Lee hated nunchucks. Actually hated them, called them a worthless piece of junk. He couldn't understand why anyone would choose them over more practical weapons like swords or staffs. His friend and training partner, Dan Inosanto, had to practically beg Bruce to even try learning them. Bruce resisted. He argued. He insisted they were useless for real combat. But Dan kept pushing. Finally, Bruce agreed to give them 3 months. Just 3 months to learn a weapon that typically takes years to master. What happened next shocked even Dan, who knew Bruce was gifted. 3 months later, Bruce Lee was swinging nunchucks like he'd been born with them in his hands. The speed was inhuman. The precision was perfect. The power he generated, 1,600 pounds of force, was enough to shatter bone, crush skulls, break arms with a single strike. Bruce didn't just learn the nunchucks. He mastered them. In 3 months. He went from hating them to making them his signature weapon. From considering them worthless to making them iconic. That's not normal learning. That's not even accelerated learning. That's something else. Something that suggests Bruce Lee's brain processed movement and technique in ways fundamentally different from regular humans. To understand how absurd this is, consider that traditional nunchaku masters in Okinawa trained for decades to reach the level Bruce achieved in 12 weeks. Decades. They start as children and practice daily into old age. Bruce picked them up as an adult and surpassed them in the time it takes most people to finish a college semester. The explanation lies partly in Bruce's philosophy of learning. He didn't just practice movements, he understood the principles behind them. He could break down any technique into its fundamental components, understand the physics and biomechanics, then reconstruct it in the most efficient way possible. But that alone doesn't explain the speed of his mastery. That required something more. Something in how his brain formed neural pathways, how quickly he could turn conscious thought into unconscious muscle memory. Neurologists call this accelerated motor learning, and it's exceptionally rare. Bruce had it to a degree that's almost unprecedented in documented history. Evidence number 5. The Yoichi Nakachi fight. This story comes from Jesse Glover, who is widely considered Bruce Lee's first American student. In 1994, Jesse told Black Belt magazine about a fight that happened decades earlier. A fight most people never heard about. A fight that lasted 11 seconds. Yoichi Nakachi was a karate master, legitimate, skilled, dangerous. He'd heard Bruce make a statement claiming soft-style kung fu was superior to hard-style karate. This didn't sit well with Yoichi. He wanted to prove Bruce wrong. He challenged him publicly, repeatedly. Bruce ignored him, but Yoichi kept pushing, kept calling him out. Finally, Bruce agreed to fight. The rules were simple. 3 rounds, 2 minutes each. First person knocked unconscious loses. 7 people witnessed the fight. It took place at the YMCA in downtown Seattle. The bell rang. Yoichi threw the first punch. Bruce dodged it easily and countered with a series of straight punches that sent the karate master crashing into the wall. Yoichi tried to grab him. Bruce was too fast. Double punch, head and chest simultaneously. Then a finishing kick. 11 seconds. That's how long it took. When Jesse examined Yoichi afterward, the left side of his face looked like it had been hit with a baseball bat. Cracked skull. Unconscious for so long, they thought he might actually be dead. And Bruce? He acted completely casual about it. Like it was nothing. Like destroying a trained master in 11 seconds was just another Tuesday. But here's what makes this story particularly significant. Bruce asked and everyone present to keep it quiet. He didn't want publicity, didn't want controversy, didn't want the fight to become some legend that enhanced his reputation. He just wanted to settle the matter and move on. This tells us something important about Bruce Lee's character. He wasn't fighting to prove himself to the world. He was fighting to prove a point about martial arts philosophy, about the effectiveness of different styles, about the importance of adaptability over rigid tradition. The fact that he could have used this victory for massive publicity and chose not to shows that his dedication to martial arts was genuine. It wasn't about fame. It wasn't about ego. It was about truth, about testing what actually works versus what people claim works. Evidence number 6. Two-finger push-ups. 200. Two-finger push-ups. Bruce Lee holds a record that has never been broken, never even approached. 200 consecutive push-ups using only 2 fingers. Let that sink in. Most people struggle to do 10 regular push-ups. Bruce did 200 on 2 fingers. But wait, it gets crazier. He also performed 1,500 two-handed push-ups at one time, and 400 one-handed push-ups. These aren't stories. These aren't exaggerations. These are documented achievements, witnessed, verified, filmed. The two-finger push-up requires an absolutely insane amount of finger strength, wrist stability, core control, and overall body conditioning. Your entire body weight is balanced on 2 fingers. The strain on those tendons, those small bones in the hand, it's enormous. And Bruce did it 200 times, in a row, without stopping. This isn't just impressive. This suggests a level of physical conditioning that borders on superhuman. It suggests muscle fiber density, tendon strength, and neural efficiency far beyond normal human parameters. To put this in perspective, professional rock climbers, whose entire sport revolves around finger strength, typically max out at maybe 20 to 32 finger push-ups. And that's after years of specific training for exactly that type of stress. Bruce did 200, without specific training for that particular exercise, just as a byproduct of his overall conditioning. The implications are staggering. It means Bruce's connective tissue, his tendons and ligaments, had to be significantly stronger than normal. His bone density had to be higher. His pain tolerance had to be extraordinary. Because even if you have the strength to do 2-finger push-ups, the pain of supporting your entire body weight on 2 small points would stop most people long before muscle failure. Evidence number 7. Punching power. Equal to Muhammad Ali. Bruce Lee weighed 130 pounds. Muhammad Ali weighed 260 pounds. Ali had twice Bruce's body mass. Yet, according to scientific measurements, Bruce Lee's punching force was equal to Ali's, 350 pounds of force. Think about that. A man half the size generating the same impact. That's not just skill. That's not just technique. That's a violation of basic physics. Force equals mass times acceleration. Bruce had half the mass, which means he was generating twice the acceleration to create equal force. His fist was moving so fast, transferring energy so efficiently, that it compensated for the massive weight difference. Bruce was obsessed with Ali. He studied his fights for hours, analyzed his footwork, incorporated elements of boxing into his style. His students remember him saying, "Watch Ali, study how he moves, learn from the best." But when asked directly if he could beat Ali in a fight, Bruce was honest. "Look at my hand. That's a little Chinese hand. He'd kill me." Which is fascinating, because it shows Bruce understood context. He knew boxing was Ali's domain, just like he knew Kung Fu was his. But that punching power? That was real. That was measured. That was verified by equipment that doesn't lie. The measurements were taken using a dynamometer, a device that measures force. Bruce would punch it. The machine would register the impact. 350 pounds of force. Consistently. Other martial artists tested on the same machine. They averaged 150 to 200 pounds of force. Professional boxers in Bruce's weight class, maybe 250 pounds. Bruce was generating force levels that should have been physically impossible for his body mass. The only explanation is that Bruce had somehow optimized every single aspect of punching mechanics. His stance, his hip rotation, his shoulder drive, his arm extension, his fist formation, his breathing, his timing, everything was perfect. And that perfection, combined with his exceptional muscle density and neural efficiency, allowed him to transcend normal human limitations. Evidence number 8. Chuck Norris couldn't beat him. The fight scene between Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris in Way of the Dragon is legendary. 10 minutes of perfectly choreographed combat, shot illegally in the Roman Colosseum, one of the greatest fight scenes in cinema history. But here's what's interesting. It never happened in real life. Bruce and Chuck never actually fought. Yet, when Chuck Norris was asked in an interview, who would win in a real fight, you or Bruce Lee? His answer was immediate. Bruce, of course. No one can beat him. This is Chuck Norris talking. The man is an 8th-degree black belt Grand Master in Taekwondo, the only Westerner to ever achieve that rank. He's not some actor pretending to know martial arts. He's a legitimate master. And he said without hesitation that Bruce Lee would destroy him. That tells you everything you need to know. When one of the greatest martial artists in Western history admits he couldn't beat someone, you're not talking about normal human ability anymore. Chuck Norris had fought professionally. He'd won championships. He'd defeated some of the best fighters in the world. He knew what elite combat looked like. He knew what separated good fighters from great fighters. And he recognized in Bruce Lee something beyond even greatness, something that transcended normal martial arts skill. Evidence number 9. 6 kicks in 1 second. Bruce Lee could throw 6 kicks in 1 second. Not punches, kicks. Full power, technique, perfect kicks. 6 of them. In 1 second. The world record for most kicks in 1 minute is held by Silvana Shamoun and her student. 178 kicks in 60 seconds. That's 2.9 kicks per second. Impressive, right? Bruce was doing 6 kicks per second, more than twice as fast. How? Training with weights. Bruce would practice kicks with heavy weights strapped to his ankles and wrists. This slowed him down, forced his muscles to work harder, developed explosive power. When he removed the weights, his legs moved like lightning. But here's the thing. Lots of martial artists train with weights. None of them achieve 6 kicks per second, which means there was something else. Something in Bruce's muscle fiber composition, his neural pathways, his biomechanical efficiency, something that allowed him to move faster than physics should allow. 6 kicks per second means each kick takes 0.166 seconds. That's the time it takes most people to blink. In that fraction of a second, Bruce had to chamber his leg, extend it with full power, make contact, retract it, and reset for the next kick. The speed of muscle contraction required for this is beyond what sports science considers normal human capability. Evidence number 10. The 1-inch punch. Perhaps Bruce Lee's most famous demonstration of power was the 1-inch punch. Standing with his fist just 1 inch away from an opponent's chest, Bruce could generate enough force to send a grown man flying backward several feet. The physics of this are absurd. Power comes from distance, from acceleration, from the ability to build momentum. Bruce had 1 inch, 1 single inch of travel, and yet he could knock people across a room. Scientists who studied this technique discovered something remarkable. Bruce wasn't just using his arm. He was using his entire body as a kinetic chain. Every muscle, from his toes to his fingertips, activated in perfect sequence. The power originated in his legs, traveled through his hips, transferred through his core, accelerated through his shoulder, and exploded out through his fist. all in a fraction of a second, all coordinated with such perfect timing that every ounce of force combined at the exact moment of impact. But here's what makes it superhuman. Other martial artists know this technique. They teach it. They practice it. None of them can do it like Bruce. None of them generate that level of force from that distance, which suggests that Bruce's neuromuscular coordination, his ability to fire muscles in perfect sequence, was operating at a level far beyond normal human capacity. The one-inch punch wasn't just a party trick, it was proof of concept. Proof that Bruce understood body mechanics at a level that allowed him to maximize force output in ways that seemed to violate physics. And if he could do that with 1 inch of distance, imagine what he could do with full extension. Evidence number 11. The training regimen that shouldn't be possible. Bruce Lee's training schedule was inhuman. Literally, sports scientists today look at his documented routine and say it shouldn't be physiologically possible to sustain. He would run 4 to 5 miles every morning. Then train for several hours. Lift weights 3 nights a week. Practice martial arts techniques constantly throughout the day. And he did this every single day. No rest days. No recovery periods. No breaks. His body should have broken down, should have suffered from overtraining syndrome, should have experienced injury after injury from the constant stress with no recovery time. Except it didn't. Bruce thrived on this schedule, got stronger, faster, more skilled. His body adapted to stress levels that would hospitalize normal athletes. Modern sports science emphasizes recovery. Rest days. Periodization. The understanding that muscle growth happens during rest, not during training. Bruce Lee apparently didn't get that memo. Or more accurately, his body didn't need it. His recovery speed was superhuman. He could train at maximum intensity day after day without the negative effects that plague normal athletes. Evidence number 12. The sweat gland removal. This is where things get dark, and possibly explain his death. Bruce Lee had his armpit sweat glands surgically removed. Why? Because sweat stains looked bad on camera. That's it. That's the reason. He was so obsessed with looking perfect on screen, so dedicated to his craft, that he underwent surgery to remove the biological mechanism that helps the human body regulate temperature. Think about that decision. Your sweat glands exist for a reason. They're not decorative. They're essential. They prevent your body from overheating. They dissipate heat. They keep you alive. And Bruce Lee voluntarily removed them. A few weeks before his death, Bruce fainted while recording dialogue for Enter the Dragon. The recording room was small, hot, and the engineer had turned off the air conditioning to prevent noise. Bruce collapsed, started convulsing, nearly died from cerebral edema, brain swelling caused by heat stroke. He survived. Barely. On July 20th, 1973, it happened again. Except this time, he didn't survive. The official cause of death: allergic reaction to medication. But biographer Matthew Polly argues differently. He believes Bruce died from heat stroke, made worse, possibly caused, by the fact that he couldn't sweat, couldn't cool his body, had voluntarily removed the safety mechanism that might have saved his life. This tragedy underscores something important about Bruce Lee. He was so committed to perfection, so dedicated to his art, that he would make decisions that put his health, his life, at risk. That level of dedication is admirable in some ways, terrifying in others. And ultimately, it may have killed him.